for Chase Daniel, who does an awesome job in really everything he does. You know, quarterbacks have such an advantage breaking down some of this stuff. I hate them. They have an advantage in every aspect of life. And Chase is doing the same thing with his terrific show on YouTube. Chase, it's Ross Tucker, man. Good to see you. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. And it's hilarious. So I saw the tweet. The Unman Ubers are real because like we go to Phoenix. We're home based in San Diego. And we go to Phoenix once or twice a year to play golf because best golf in the world, in my opinion, over there. And dude, I've seen a few of them, but you look and there's no one driving, there's no one in the front seat, and there's like 3 people in the back seat. And oh, by the way, it's like $6 to go to the airport. So they're taking over. It's creepy as all get out though, man. Like I don't trust them. Like you see all these problems that Tesla's having with these autopilots, like unmanned vehicles. I don't know, but yeah, that was it's weird.
So wait, so 2 interesting things there, Chase. So number one, I never thought about that, but of course they would be a lot cheaper because you don't have to pay the person. So that makes sense.
Way cheaper.
Secondly, I agree that it's weird, but then I think about how many people are driving that probably shouldn't be driving. And I think, I don't know, maybe I'd rather have a computer than some of these people that are like not paying attention or might not be the brightest bulbs.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. It's just weird to see unmanned vehicles. Like I'm with you. I'm not ready for it. I'm pro technology, but I'm just not ready for it.
All right. So what you are ready is to break down week 18. So here's the first question. Did you ever start one of these games? Did you ever start one of these, you know, we're resting the starters so you get the last start of the year games?
Yeah, two actually. It's wild. My first start ever was against the San Diego Chargers. It was 2013, I think. It was our first year, Andy Reid Chiefs. We had locked up like the 5 seed. I don't think we could have gone either like higher or lower. So it was the game. I don't know if you remember, but it was the game where like I think we were like 10-5. And the Chargers were 9-4, so 9-5, something crazy. They had to win to get into the playoffs. So they were playing everybody, and we literally sat as many people as possible for the Chiefs. We ended up kicking a 40-yard field goal with no time to win the game. The kicker missed it. We went to overtime, and they actually beat us in overtime on this like crazy 4th and 15 play. To actually get into the playoffs. So it was cool to go into San Diego and almost beat Phillip Rivers and the Chargers starters when I was there. So it was interesting. And that's what a lot of these people understand. Like I got a graphic from NFL Network sent to me about all the backup quarterbacks that are going. And I sent a tweet out and I was like, hey, this is electric. And it was like Blaine Gabbert versus Easton Stick. And look, it's just like, I actually enjoy it because it's a great opportunity for people and guys who have been backup quarterbacks to show what they got. And this game to these guys means a lot. Now to fans, it might not mean so much, but it's a good opportunity for them to show not only themselves, but their teammates and their teams and people around the world. Like, hey, you belong here, right? Because anytime you get an opportunity to start, like in the NFL, there's only 32 jobs, right? So to be able to get one of those on any given Sunday, it's a pretty cool thing.
And I was saying earlier in the show, Chase, and I think it's any position, but more for quarterback than other positions. Do you guys have like an equation? Because I'm buddies with some backup quarterbacks, like Chad Henne's from my hometown, right?
Yeah.
And I'm convinced, right, if you start one game and play well, that adds like you're good for the next 2 years. Like you start one game, you play
maybe
well.
3 years.
Yeah, you get 2 or 3 years out of that. Yeah. Unless you have to go in again in between and play bad. But like I mean, is there like a math equation? But you guys know that that's how it works.
Well, you realize like it's this league is like there's some bad quarterback play. Like let's just be honest. And so when somebody comes in like a Jake Browning. Or like, I wouldn't even put Gardner Minshew as a backup because he's been a starter. But what Gardner Minshew's done to be able to have the Colts in a play-in game this year, he was brought in to mentor Anthony Richardson in the second game of the year. He's playing the entire year. So I think teams are going to put way more of a value on backup quarterbacks. But yeah, all it takes, I mean, look, you're not only playing these guys that are playing this week, all the backups, they're not just playing for their team because a lot of these guys are in short-term contracts. They're playing for 31 other teams. They're putting their stuff on tape. So when the backup quarterback and the starting quarterback carousel goes round and round like it does every offseason, some of these guys who play well in this last game, they're going to have a spot. And I think, and what I'm hearing is like, teams are going to put more of an emphasis on backup quarterback because look at this year, right? Like there's been so many different quarterbacks, 70 something quarterbacks to play this year. And so I think you not only need a number one, but teams are going to spend to be able to get a number two. And those number twos at the top of the list, they're going to go fast and they're going to go for a lot of money, over $5 million on a yearly salary, but it's worth it for teams like the Bengals. Like they didn't make the playoffs, but to have Jake Browning, no one in their right mind thought Jake Browning was going to play well and put them in a position to even remotely have a shot at the playoffs. And look at what he's done this year. He's made himself a lot of money and extended his career at least 3 years, in my opinion.
Talking with longtime NFL quarterback Chase Daniel here on the Dan Patrick Show. Ross Tucker filling in for Dan on a Meat Friday. Check out the Chase Daniel Show on YouTube. It is fantastic. So here's my question about C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young, right? I don't really remember, Chase, many people saying that they liked Stroud more than Young. There might be somebody out there that said it, but most people, the consensus was Young 1, Stroud 2, and Lovie Smith blew it for the Texans because he won that last game last year. What did we miss about both these guys? And I'm not rating their careers yet. It's only year one. I get it. But, man, Stroud looks really good, and Young really does not. What did we miss? What did all the evaluators miss?
Well, I think at the end of the day, like with CJ, right, the whole thing is like the testing and is he smart? Is he like, I hate when media members, especially, and even teams put any emphasis at all on like you're taking a test that has nothing to do with football. Okay, like just go and meet with the guy if you want to get an opportunity on how he processes things or how when you get onto the field, it's completely different. And to be honest, I always liked CJ Stroud. And I agree that like in college, Bryce Young had a better career, but I wasn't like you could talk me out of like Bryce Young versus CJ Stroud. Like I thought CJ Stroud had a little bit of a higher ceiling. And you know, all these attacks on character for CJ Stroud. Like I was talking with the Houston Texans coaching staff before the draft, like, hey, we'll be happy with either. And we think we're going to get CJ, and we're actually pumped because CJ, in my opinion, he's built like an NFL quarterback. I didn't realize like when I put on the film of CJ in the NFL, and I broke him down every single week this year because he's fun to watch. I didn't realize how quick of a release he had, how well he processed stuff, how good of a leader he was talking with the coaching staff. And that's a big deal. And when you go over to the other side of the spectrum and you go to Bryce Young, I just think like he's not, you look at the players around him. I'm trying to say this in a nice way because I got players and people on that team. The players around him they're not as good as the players around CJ Stroud, if that makes sense. So your quarterback is only as good as the playmakers you put around. You look at that offensive line for Carolina, like Bryce has very little time to throw. And I don't think this year is any indication on what he can be in his career, but you also have to sort of build an offense around him. Just like any other quarterback, you got to put pieces around him. You got to put receivers. Like everyone's just playing man coverage against Carolina because those receivers can't beat man coverage. And Bryce is having to hold on to the ball a little bit longer. These receivers are getting hemmed up at the offensive, at the line of scrimmage, and there's nowhere to go with the football. And so he's having to try to make plays outside of him. And he just looks fragile, man. Like he looks like if he takes one more hit, he might not make it. But I think if David Tepper gets this hire right in Carolina, and I think you have to go offensive mind, like a Ben Johnson that he's going to have to overpay for or something like that. Like I think this time next year, you're going to be sitting here and saying, wow, okay, yeah, maybe it was coaching. Maybe it was the players around him that caused him to not have such a great season.
Talking with Chase Daniel here, longtime NFL quarterback, host of the Chase Daniel Show on YouTube. You see him on NFL Network. He's got a lot of stuff going in the media now. I see him with Trey Wingo It's interesting, Chase, because you said CJ Stroud built like an NFL quarterback. You know, you're what, 5'10"? Something like that?
Oh, I'm 6 foot. Come on,
Okay,
bro.
okay, 6 foot. But whatever.
Yeah, 5'10".
But Chase, you were one of the original
Yeah.
like short quarterbacks. Like now it's like it's cool for Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield. But when you were in the league, Chase, you might have been like the only guy less than 6'2" when you first. My question, and you played big time Texas high school football. Like, how many times were you told you were too short? High school, college, NFL to have the career you did?
I think mainly the biggest thing was the NFL career, because in high school, like we went 47-1 in 3 years at South Lake Carroll and Dallas, and won two state championships, lost a third state championship by a point, and we threw for so many yards and touchdowns. I had over 75 offers to go to college, ended up choosing Missouri, set records at Missouri. So I don't know why it would be any different at the next level, but I remember on draft night or draft day, like the third day, my guy was like, look, hey, my agent was like, hey, I just don't think you're going to get drafted. Like, you're just not tall enough is what I'm hearing. And I'm like, I measured 6 foot and an eighth at the combine. I measured 6 foot at the East West Shrine. Like, what do you mean? Like, it doesn't really matter. And you see, and that was sort of the start. You look at like Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, Bryce Young, all these other guys who've had success. And obviously the number one guy was Drew Brees, right? Right at 6 foot, first ballot Hall of Famer. And so it was a little bit annoying to me, because I'm like, I put my tape on the film and put it on the field, and you're going to tell me that one thing outside of my control is the reason why I'm not going to get drafted. And so I think I use that as a chip on my shoulder, not necessarily for motivation, but for a way to be like, okay, I'm going to prove not people like wrong, but the people who believed in me, I'm going to prove them right, if that makes sense. That was my motivation, not really the doubters or anything else. And I turned it into a 14-year career. And it was a fun career. That's for sure.
So when people, Chase, and you know, a lot of people talk about how much money you made, you know, given how many games you played or started. Does that bother you, or does it make you laugh, or does it make you proud? You think it's hilarious? I was curious to get your reaction.
Yeah, I think it's hilarious. I mean, look, you know, you are worth what somebody is willing to pay you. And I prided myself on being the hardest worker at every single team I was on, at helping the quarterbacks out, the starters out. I had a lot of offensive coordinators, 2 or 3, to get head coaching jobs. And then I think once you're in the league and you actually play, I think I've started 5 or 6 games, and you play well, it just extends your career. We talked about it. And then I think you become like, okay, he's the guy that can come in and mentor with Carson Wentz or Mitch Trubisky or Justin Herbert or all these guys. And so
it's kind of not your fault. It's kind of not your fault, right? That the starter didn't get hurt more often. I mean, you easily could have started like 30 or 40 games, but the starter like almost never got hurt.
I know. And in all the areas that I was in and teams I was in, that's the one thing, like the starter was abnormally like healthy. Like the 2013 start I did that I talked about, we had already locked up the 5th seed. 2014, Alex Smith like busted his spleen open the week before in Pittsburgh. I got 2 days notice. I was starting on Christmas. And then Trubisky gets hurt in Chicago. And really those are the only starts. And Trubisky came back. So it wasn't like an extended start. So yeah, starters in front of me just we're healthy.
Hey, you mentioned Chicago, last one, because I just did their game on Sunday against the Falcons, and they got a big one against the Packers this Sunday. How do you feel about Fields? I mean, the Bears have the number 1 pick, man. They could get anybody. Caleb Williams, Drake May. Would you draft somebody, or would you stick with Fields?
I do not think that the Chicago Bears should trade Justin Fields. And I've been very, very vocal on social media, on my YouTube channel, on everything. And the main reason is you just don't know what you're getting in Caleb Williams, Drake May, or Michael Penix Jr. Like, you have no clue. You know what you have in Justin Fields, and you know that the ceiling is rising. His stock is going up. And every time that he stepped on that field, and the offensive game plan that Luke Getsy has put together has been something that he's liked to do, and what he does well, unlike like the under center play action stuff that they were doing early last year or even this year. You put him in a shotgun, have him RPO. I think his decision making and his processing has gotten a lot faster. That was the biggest thing I wanted to see him. And he's going up. Like Justin Fields is going to be a starting quarterback somewhere next year. And I could just imagine, like I do a bunch of hits on like Chicago national sports radio, and it's a circus over there right now, man. Everyone's split. I feel like the fans want Fields, but I could just imagine that if the Chicago Bears were to pick a quarterback at number one, they would trade Justin Fields. I can't imagine them keeping them together. Trade Justin Fields. And what if the Fields goes to the Las Vegas Raiders? Like that's a good landing spot, or the Atlanta Falcons. And the first 6 games of the year, the Bears are struggling because they've started the quarterback clock over. They have a good defense, but they're trying to get this offense. What is this new quarterback like? And Justin Fields, 6 games in, is balling, has the Raiders at 4-2 or the Falcons at 4-2. Like, could you imagine the explosion in Chicago sports radio there? Like, that's just what I think. And look, at the end of the day, Ryan Poles, I guarantee you at the beginning of the year, he was probably thinking, hey, we're probably going to take a quarterback at number one if we end up getting the pick. That decision right now is not so cut and dry. And so he's probably thinking like, oh man, now I got a serious decision to make. The future of the franchise is in my hands. That's why he got paid all these big bucks to do it. So I'll be interested to follow his decision.
Chase, thanks so much for the time, man. Really appreciate it. Great to talk with you.
Thanks, guys.
There he is, Chase Daniel. Make sure you check out the Chase Daniel Show on YouTube.